Claude Monet, also known as Oscar Claude or Claude Oscar, was the second son born to Claude Adolphe and Louise Justine Monet on November 14, 1840 in Paris, France. 5 years later, the family would move to Saint-Adresse, where Claude would receive his classical education from Le Havre. Monet began as a caricaturist, but at 16, Eugene Boudin would alter this, convincing him to paint outdoors with pastels and oils. This eventually led to Monet's epiphany about wanting to paint the effects of light on outdoor scenes. Monet went on to paint in Paris at the Charles Suisse Academy, where he met Camille Pissarro, Paul Cézanne, and Edouard Manet. In 1860, Claude joined the military and was stationed in Algeria, where he contracted typhoid and was forced to return home the following year. Doing so, he then went to the School of Fine Art in Paris and again began painting with Boudin, and also this time with Jean Kin. About Jean Kin, he would come to say, "By their completing the teaching which I had received from Boudin, he was from this moment my true master, and it is to him that I owe the final education of my eye." In 1862, Monet began painting at the studio of Charles Clair in Paris with Renoir, Bazille, and Sisley, with whom he would go to the Louvre and study the works of Courbet and Manet, inspired by the original works that they created without a care of being liked by critics or anyone else. At 25, Monet had his first success. 2 of his paintings were admitted to the Salon of Paris, which was a feat as the paintings of most artists were refused each year. The first was the Cap de la Hève at low tide, and the mouth of the Seine at Honfleur was the second. In the following year, The Woman in the Green Dress was exhibited, a work he had created in just 4 days, a portrait of his future wife. After some initial success, however, Monet and his friends would face many refusals. In 1869, Monet painted a series with Renoir. Impressionism took off here, with their fast and vigorous brushstrokes of pure color. A year later, he married Camille Dancier, his favorite model, who had given birth to his first son, Jean, in 1867. She posed for several works over the years, and would give birth to their second child, Michel, in 1878. In 1870, Claude met Paul Durand-Ruel, an influential French picture dealer who would promote Impressionism and buy many works. Facing scrutiny and rejection from the Salon of Paris, however, Monet and friends, including Renoir and Pissarro, held their own show of impressionistic works in 1874. Monet's work, Impression Sunrise, was displayed, and a critic, Louis Leroy, coined the term Impressionism when he referred to the show as entirely impressionistic. Others called the artists mere painters of impression, alluding to the idea that they couldn't complete a true painting. A financial failure, the show continued until 1886, with Monet featured in 5 of the shows. The criticism stemmed from the nature of the paintings. Most artists used quick brushstrokes outdoors, and these were used as notes to take back to the studio and recreate with detailed scrutiny. However, Claude was the first of his time to leave the Impression paintings as is in his final work. Impressionism focused on the idea of art being for art's sake. The optical mixtures were created by brushstrokes of pure color. These vibrant colors were often rejected by critics, and sometimes works were even covered with a gloss to mute the colors. Fast execution of the paintings was crucial, as they were meant to depict a specific moment in time. Monet once said, "For me, a landscape does not exist in its own right, since its appearance changes at every moment, but the surrounding atmosphere brings it to life, the light and the air, which vary continually." Even the darkest days create many colors, exhibited in Impressionist works. Ideally, scenes were depicted how they were perceived by the painter, not always as they were. With all the critics, Monet's paintings were not very lucrative at the time, and he continually moved around in search of cheaper living arrangements. He lived in Argenteuil, Vétheuil, where his wife passed in 1879, Poissy, and Giverny. In 1880, Monet finally began to receive notice, leading him from destitution to a life of luxury. In 1883, he began living with his mistress, Alice Hached, and her 6 children, who the affair had begun with 3 years prior to his wife's death. He would marry her after her own husband's death in 1892. In the end, Monet spent his final 43 years in Giverny painting the village, nymphias, water lilies, Japanese bridge from his own backyard, and more. His eyesight became troublesome due to the nature of his work, and he would eventually pass as a result of lung cancer at the age of 86 on December 5, 1926. His students included American Impressionists Theodore Butler, Lila K. Perry, and Theodore Robinson. Due to his prolific nature, it was very hard for me to choose what would be considered his most famous or important works. However, many people, because it is so hard to do so, choose to group his works by themes or by time periods. As I said in the beginning, he was a caricaturist. He often drew paintings of his teachers and ridiculed them. He created a lot of paintings in Argenteuil, two of which I pictured here. Also in Vétoil, where he lived and where his wife Camille passed. And then he did several series paintings, as they're termed. For example, in this is the Rouen Cathedral, and it's done at different times of the day and season to show the different effects of light on a setting. Here are some of the nymphias that he focused on during his time in Giverny, and these are some of his most famous works. Additionally, this is the Japanese bridge series. As you can see, it's the same bridge, just in different lighting, which is really the focus of Impressionism. Monet's works are inexhaustible and live on today globally. They're a tribute to a time in which artists chose to focus on the impression of light on objects, sceneries, and landscapes. In the end, Monet's works will not be forgotten and will continue to inspire artists to paint what they perceive. And then these are just sources. Thanks for watching.